Right, we are live, back with another episode. It's just me and Bobby A, the master himself, and
Nice.
yeah,
No Joe this time.
no
He's
Joe. You'll
probably
see.
working out somewhere.
Probably he's hitting the weights. You'll see
Yeah.
him in probably 2 weeks, I imagine, and you'll actually see him in the digital space. You'll know what this man looks like, and he's been cultivating mass, as they say, over the years.
Yeah.
This was a man that used to dress in three piece suits, and now
Kenneth Cole suits.
the suits just won't fit him. They're not made for a man of his size and stature.
He's
Um,
wide now. Wide load
correct,
coming in.
correct. He's
Yeah.
got girth.
Pause.
But that's a conversation for another day. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
You'll get a
Yeah.
chance to meet him. But today we're gonna kind of like hit again. We're gonna do some current events. In the future, we're gonna
Yeah.
kind of go back to our normal style of just like pontificating about life. Uh,
Yeah.
but there has been a lot of current
Which
event
is
stuff. So we're gonna talk about specifically what has been coined Signal Gate.
yes.
And Bobby A, as usual, has been like, deep in the trenches
In the
of
back cave.
Twitter,
Yeah.
X, to
Yeah.
seeing what all of the buzz is. And I've kind of like just looked at the highlights and more or less just the data points. So without
Yeah.
further ado, long-winded, but I'm going to kind of set the table and then we're going to just kind of riff for the next hour or so.
Yeah.
So for any of you who have not, been
Yeah.
apprised to
Set the
this,
table.
and also for those of you who might be in another country listening to this, because believe it or not, we do have people from all over the world that do listen to us,
Big up.
to our clips.
Hell
So
yeah.
hello to you from the East Coast of America.
Yeah.
But just to set the table, right? So high level, March 11th to March 15th, there was a internal dialogue between many members of the current, government. And this was all done through the Signal application. So if you're not aware of it, Signal, there's, like anyone else, there's many messaging platforms you can use to communicate. Some of you are using WeChat. Some of you use WhatsApp. You use iMessage. There's really, at this point in
Mm-hmm.
time, thousands of ways to communicate with each other. Telegram, for example. They have pros and cons. Some are better or worse. Signal, for a long period of time, kind of got a lot of to do regarding its emphasis on encryption and really privacy and security, because a lot of these applications that we use every day, believe it or not, are very much open, either deliberately for the government access or for other governments, or just for the fact of they're not that hard to break into. And also those messages are, if not easily accessible to others in the world, they're very much accessible to the company themselves. So Signal kind of like played on the whole idea of, we're going to try to create a very secure, privacy focused and privacy forward platform that gave a lot
Right.
of features, right? Like end-to-end encryption, the ability to delete a message and it actually be deleted, the ability to create time-sensitive messages that
Mm-hmm.
actually at a period of time expire and are no longer available. And for that reason, a lot of people kind of, moved to it for a lot of more, um, maybe not classified, but just for confidential information.
Just for privacy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why a lot of drug dealers use it. So, it has, for
Facts.
both sides of the legal spectrum, they have both identified it to be a useful application. Now, just to, again, for setting the table, what happened between March 11th and March 15th is members of the Trump presidential government, let's say, started a
High level though.
high level.
Directors.
We're
Yeah.
talking about like JD Vance and
Directors. Yeah.
directors of these different departments.
FBI, CIA, National Intelligence.
Yeah, and you can find this. We're kind of pulling a lot of this
Yeah.
from Wikipedia's. It's entitled "United States Government Group Chat Leak," and for the most part, it's pretty good
Right.
because it stays pretty non-biased. It just kind of lays out, and you can draw like your own conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, many members. We're talking about JD Vance, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense Mark Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard, Michael
Intelligence.
Waltz, right? The national, director of national intelligence, all of the
Yeah.
the heads of a lot
FBI
of,
director. What's his? Kash Patel and Radcliffe, CIA director.
correct.
Yeah.
And someone started this chat and accidentally, let's say, a member of the journalistic entity, one of a reporter essentially was inadvertently added to this chat.
That's right.
So now you have all of these members and key integral members of the government
The decision
having
makers,
decision makers
basically.
having
Yeah.
a conversation. We can go into what they talk about, and now you have a member of the press that's just kind of like sitting in the wings, also
Yeah,
being
just
able to
lurking and
read and
watching the chat.
watch, right?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
wasn't like he did anything; he was invited into this
He
arena.
was added to the group.
Correct.
Correct. Yeah.
So what? Just to kind of give you
By
again,
Waltz, I believe. By Waltz.
yeah, by the
Inadvertently.
correct. The person who started the chat was Mike Waltz, and
Yeah.
Mike Waltz was the one that invited this member into this group chat.
Yes. Yes.
So a lot of correspondence is taking place, and in in the wake of this, there's been a questions as to was classified information leaked, because this journalist did what a journalist should do, essentially
I
was
liked it.
write
Yeah.
an article pretty much talking about how he was invited into this high level group chat, and how that's something should not have happened, and how that's definitely at the very least a security leak. And then since then, in the wake of this, right, there's been some court hearings and just a lot of like talk on both sides of the political aisle. Just to not to go too much into the weeds, but the pretty much the what's being classified or why it's being deemed not just like a leak or like bad form or just like really going like against like security protocols, and why this is being labeled like the leak of confidential
Yeah. It's a
classified
full on
information,
breach. Yeah.
is because in this chat, not the entire context of the chat, but part of this chat is specifically commenting on an attack that was recently launched against the Houthis in, I believe this would be Yemen.
Yeah. It's a militant group in Yemen.
So at some part of this chat, there is a message, and I've gone through and read the message, but where there's literally like timestamps of, okay, launch is happening now, this is happening, in
What
3 hours this will
planes, what
happen.
weapons are being
Yeah.
used? Yeah,
So
correct.
it
Yeah.
very much you're getting a blow by blow, step by step of what's happening in a
Yeah, crazy
ongoing
stuff. Crazy stuff.
attack,
Crazy
in a
work.
kind
Yeah.
of unsecure environment where now you have this random journalist as part of that. So okay, I think that's it. That's it. That gives
That
you
was good.
pretty
That was
much
good.
a
Yeah.
clear table set. In the wake of that has just been now, okay, who should get fired, how did this happen, what happened. And I know, Rob, I'll kind of kick it back to you because he's kind of seen more of the court hearings and kind of like what's going there. So yeah, we're gonna now
Yeah, yeah.
spitball for this.
Yeah, so wonderful summary. Now, Mike, first of all, my immediate question is how this happen,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
as you said, Signal is supposed to be the private, encrypted, secret app. So how was this journalist? His name is Jeffrey Goldberg, I believe
yes,
his name, from the Atlantic. So the Atlantic is more of a left leaning, which is
correct.
also plays into this whole game. Yeah. So what I think, I mean, I think
Yeah, let's just go from here.
Corvo is going to get what I'm saying. What if he wasn't inadvertently added? What if he was added intentionally? So
Yeah, that's a good point.
so what happened is the hearings. I watched about. I didn't watch the full 4 hour hearing, but I watched about 45 minutes to an hour of it was tense, Corvo. It was tense, intense grilling. It was a grill. They were they were grilling him, and what struck me the most, first of all,
Who
is
was being grilled?
it was Gabbard, Ratcliffe, Patel, the FBI director, National Intelligence Director, CIA Director, and the two generals that were overseeing the mission, the strike.
Got it.
Yeah, I think it's Curse, and I forgot the other general's name. There was another general. I forgot his name. But now, the questions they were being asked, obviously, because when you get to the so first of all, the intelligence committee, the oversight committee, was the one that was grilling them. So
Okay.
it's a mix of Democratic senators and Republicans. Yeah, but they were asking some good questions. It wasn't just I'm a Democrat, you're in the Republican administration. We're gonna try to bury you. There was a
Yeah.
little bit of that, but it was more, how did this happen? Why did this happen? And why, in any, like, regardless of the political leanings of it, why are we trying to attack this militant group in Yemen? Like, what threat do they have, right? And a lot of it is tied to the Israel, the Gaza Strip stuff in
Okay.
Palestine.
Interesting. Interesting.
So, which they talked about in the chat, which you saw when you read the thread. It was
Yeah.
like, so what struck me the most is two things: that they were in this group chat talking about how the public is going to receive it. How do we spin the narrative so that, oh, we need to fund Israel for these weapons. So what is it going to look like if we use this mission here? Like, how is that going to affect Israel? Number one.
Okay.
And number two is, Gabbard specifically looked so bad in this interview. She's the director of national intelligence, and all of her answers were, "I don't recall anything. I don't remember that. I don't have the information in front of me. I can't answer that question." She's the director of national intelligence.
Well, and I think that's like
How
the
does she not
answer.
remember
Yeah,
anything?
but I
Yeah,
think that's kind of like the
it's like a
legal answer you
yeah.
give when you like. It's the only way you can say I'm not going to tell you. I don't remember.
Right, exactly. No, it's the same thing that a
Yeah,
criminal
correct.
defensive attorney would do,
Yeah,
to just
and I
say,
and I
"I
think
don't
that's
go."
probably because I mean, dude, I read through, and anyone who's watched this, you can go
Yeah,
find.
yeah, it's
Maybe I'll
readily
even
available.
I'll add the link. This is to like a
Yeah,
Reddit poster who just kind of like copied and paste because it's
yeah,
available. And I mean, you could go double check to make sure that I got there's every screenshot in there. But like a couple things. And then we can kind of go with some of the questions you have. So
yeah.
like the one thing was, if you read all of the messages from my perspective,
Hmm.
I'm not a lawyer. I have no, like, I'm just going by like how I feel reading it. Um, the vast, like the person who started the chain and up until like days later, I don't think anything was, I think everything was above board.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that.
Like, just meaning that, like, it was just strategy, whether you agree with the strategy or not. It was just kind of like, we think we need to do this. They're kind of talking like policy, strategy, that kind of stuff. But it's not like we're going to go wage war. It's more like geopolitics. So Michael Waltz is the one who started it. So like when he starts the conversation, it's more or less like, I guess they were having, so the Houthis, the where they fall into this is they're pirates, to my understanding, and they have been
Yes.
for like since Biden have been essentially making trade within like a very important waterway, like very difficult, like
Yeah,
many
sinking boats
yeah,
coming in and stuff. Yeah,
like think about it, a lot of the goods that you get into various countries come from the
ex-
water, so
exactly.
they're commandeering or at the very least commercial boats are just saying we can't go through these waters, so we got to come up with another solution. So
Hmm.
they're creating, like, economically, like a lot of problems for a lot
Yeah.
of different people. I don't think
Hmm.
just the US. They're also kind of saying that
That's
they're
right.
doing this on because of Palestine, whether that's true or not. Like, this is an Islamic group. I
Yeah.
again think all of these people have their own incentives, but at least that's part of their war
There's
cry, right? Like,
exactly right.
hey, we're doing this. They're pirates, and historically they've been pirates, from my understanding.
Yeah, like, oh, they sound like old school pirates.
Yeah, I
That's
think
what
they've
they
been
say.
pirates longer than they've been Muslim.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. Just tell me in the comments if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's like, this is profitable. This is part of their economy,
Oh,
is
they're definitely
piracy.
stealing. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's good.
So I think this has been an ongoing thing, and Biden kind of like let them do this stuff. And I think part of Trump's, his campaign was, this is done. We're not allowing people to be pirates anymore.
Hmm.
So I think they started a conversation in this chat, but really the guy who drops the ball, in my opinion, because I'm talking about this is a couple days where you're reading it and you're like, this is nothing that's like a
Yeah.
journalist shouldn't be part of it, obviously, but it's not like in no way is this really classified. But then we got my man Pete Hegseth, who a few days later is then going and giving like a blow by blow
The,
account
the strategy.
of like not even like just like he's like time now
Yeah.
11:44 Eastern
Yeah.
time. Weather is favorable. We're a go. 12:15 ET. We're going to be launching F-18s. 145, 13:4500. We're going to be sending F-18s to hit this location. 14:10. Like he's now
Right.
giving you a blow
Exactly.
by blow of the day. To me, that's where he's the one that dropped the ball because this is classified. This is not just like real time. You're giving these people the next 12 hours of what's going to be happening. So, like to that reporter's point, if someone else had seen this, they could have said, "Hey, they're also planning in the next 5 hours to hit you with F-18s a second strike." Right? This is real-time information. He dropped the ball. And I honestly think like literally his comment is the only comment that is like I'm looking at it again because literally the next day
Yeah.
it stops. The whole um, conversation ends. So literally, I
And
think I mean like, dude, Pete, what are you doing? Why
I
would
know,
you have?
man.
Why would you? Everything else, to my opinion, was like if you're trying to say like the whole 5 day conversation was like class. I don't think it is, but that there's kind of like no if and or buts. Like you're literally saying when fighter planes are going to attack and you're designating the location they're going to
And the
attack
timing, yeah,
and the
crazy,
timestamp like
crazy,
that was
dude.
like dude like what were you thinking, bro?
Yeah.
um
But I
but
mean,
yeah,
to be fair to him, I'm not saying what he didn't do was I'm not gonna call it illegal, but what he did was reckless
yeah, it
in
was
sending the
yeah. and
and
here and here's the thing I'd throw to you is a question like this is the first time like if this person had not been added intentionally or accidentally, this would not have been an issue.
Mhm.
It would have happened, the conversation would have deleted because it was set to delete.
Yeah.
And my question when I was reading this is like, all right, guys, they got caught. This is a problem. This was definitely like they made a mistake. But I would imagine how many signal conversations were deleted immediately when this hit the fire. I imagine this is like
Absolutely.
they're all conversing via signal, right?
Yeah, no.
It's just because someone literally made like a huge oversight and you invited someone into the conversation that shouldn't have been there. But like I would imagine they're talking on Signal all the time. It's just we're kind of lucky that this is the worst thing that like potentially got leaked.
Yeah, no. You could look at it that way that now it's going to be they're going to be a little more careful. But
They should, yeah.
this is a mistake you can't even make once. So people should be held accountable for
Oh,
that.
I agree.
And that's why I don't like the way the people that were being they were getting roasted. Corvo, if you watch the hearing, the senators were giving it to them as rightfully they should. They're
Yeah,
like
I mean, it's like
people's
kind of
lives are at stake. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I what I saw was kind of like because I read in the wiki kind of gives some of the commentary on some of the back and forths. I mean, it definitely falls between like all the Democrats are pretty much like this is
are
just a
gonna go after them.
beautiful opportunity to like throw mud.
Exactly, exactly.
So they're just playing the political game. But that's kind of like I think since Trump has come into office, Democrats just like that. That's how they do things, in my opinion. But even the Republicans, a lot of them were like, "Dude, this is like
You're
glaring
making this look bad.
oversight. Like,
Yeah,
how are you?" Just like it's embarrassing. Like, come on, guys.
yeah.
Um,
No, yeah, you're right. So the yeah, but I would say one thing in defense of Hesgith. What's his name?
Hegseth, I think is that.
Hegseth. Excuse me. Uh, he didn't know the other guy was not part of like the community. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
He
correct.
when that guy got added, he's like, oh, he should be here, so he doesn't know that. However, why if you're that high level of government and you can order like military operations step by step, like oven directions, like you said. How do you not vet the people in the chat? You should be looking and saying, who's this JG guy? Who is this guy?
So I
So
made a note, like when I was prepping for this, like I think part of this though is like to your point, like because I'm not trying to like I don't have any a horse in the race, so I'm not like
neither do I. Yeah.
you need to be destroyed. I mean, I think part of this is like we assume that people in power are like geniuses and that they're good
That's a
at
good point.
everything, that they're also IT specialists.
Yeah, I know
And
where you're
like
going with this.
at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's like these people, like, that's not reality. Like, they're good at certain things, they try hard, but like, they're not experts, right? There's just we live in so complicated of a world that like there's just no way you're expert at everything. You just try your best. And I think that's kind of part of it. It's not an excuse, but it's kind of like they were communicating, right? They're humans. They're like at the end of the day,
Yeah,
we're all
you're right.
kind of dumb, right? You know what I mean? And he said something, and like you said, he just assumed. Now, his mistake, in my opinion, was that he assumed he could say that thing on Signal. Like that was kind of a mistake. So like I looked up because I was kind of like I thought, and I was wrong. I thought that if you're in the government, like high level, right, that you don't use your personal phone. Like you're given a phone to use,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like I was like kind of on Grok and I was kind of asking this question. So that's true. Like so most of these people have like a government phone and their personal phone. And the government phone is like comes out of like the NSA. Like it apparently it's gonna limit like what you can add to it. You can't just be
Okay.
downloading like Crazy Birds onto it, right? Like it's gonna limit you.
Angry Birds.
Angry Birds, thank you. And it's gonna limit what you can do. So like I was kind of like, how can you even get Signal on it if it's not in a loud app? And it's what I read was like a lot of people use their personal phone and their work phone. So like, you know, if they have to make a social media post, they're using their personal phone. If they're dealing with like classified information, they're using their secure phone. So that was another question. I'm like, was this all happening on their personal phones?
I
In that
believe it
case,
was.
it's like, dude, Pete, that was also a mistake. Like
Yeah.
you should have known. So that's how I look at it. Like, dude, mistakes happen. This is probably not the first time like an information like this has been disclosed via Signal. It's just the first time that a journalist was added to the chat, and
Yeah.
that's really like that's the glaring thing. Like, someone made that's a huge mistake.
Yeah. How did that happen? That's what. So my quid, I have
Yeah,
now
man.
that we have all the facts of the table of what happened, and just like the
Yeah.
real meat is on the table. I have a question for you, Chris. I have that there's several, but my first one for you is like, how should being this careless with sensitive information be a criminal act? And coming from the government, like, could, like, not just being fired, but should, like, you're putting people's life, the military people's lives were at risk by doing this, because what if this information was intercepted by the wrong people because it was on the internet? You go on Reddit, you can get it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So it's, if they got compromised and let's say the mission failed and sent it was successful, which we'll get, which is another point I'll get to later.
Mhm.
um it, Fortunately it was successful, but what if it failed and all the pilots were like the planes were just taken out of the sky?
Yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think this is part of this is is a scenario. It's like a what if, right? Because I don't believe, I could be wrong, but that the reporter on here, Goldberg, I don't believe he posted his article till like all of this has already happened.
After the mission was
It's all
successful.
after the fact. Because right, we're
You're
dealing
That's right.
between the 11th and the 15th, and within the messaging, the act, this particular only one message that's this Houthi attack
Yeah,
happened within that time span.
it did.
I don't I so it's not like he was reporting on this ongoing conversation. Like the conversation had hit an endpoint. The events had taken place and then
Hmm.
I believe, I don't know
Yeah.
how much later, but I would assume within 10 days, because right, it's what's the date, the 26th, and now this is
Yeah.
kind of hitting the news waves. So he waited, he wrote his article after the fact, and now we're getting the repercussions. So I think that this is more or less like a what if, like, guys, this was a glaring, this could, what if it had not been a reporter who did appear to use like some really good journalistic integrity. I think the first article he commented out things like I didn't read the article, but it does appear that he just was kind of bringing up like how like this is not good. Like I was invited, like why am I invited into this
Yeah,
chain,
no, he did his job.
right? Obviously, and I like his
Yeah.
comment. I saw some of his comments was like, well, what did you expect a journalist to do when invited to like a
Yeah, I
conversation he's not
agree
invited to?
with what he did.
Yeah.
He was fine. Yeah.
Politically, I don't care what his motives were, but like
Exactly. Yeah.
obviously, right? So I don't think like anyone in this particular case could have gotten injured or hurt or the like it could have affected anything because it was happening in real time. But it's kind of like a what if, like, what if this had not been him? What if the information that Hegswith
I see what you're saying.
had
Yeah.
disclosed had not been real time, but had been like, we're gonna do this in 10 days. And right now, you have plenty of time for someone, like if that journalist had wanted to leak this, or maybe had not been a journalist, maybe it had been a random, I don't know, a random person, an ex girlfriend, an ex wife, right? Like who knows, and had like leaked it. So it's just more or less like it's less commenting on what was disclosed versus like a huge security flaw or like mishap. Like I think that's what's on trial, in my opinion.
All right. Yeah. No. Now
Does
that
that
you
make
said that,
sense?
yeah. Now that you said that, I'm thinking about it in a different way because it is vital that this all blew up after the
Yeah.
operation had already been completed.
Yeah, like
So
when did the
that does
article?
matter. Yeah.
Do you know when the article came out?
I think it was early. It was like last weekend. It
Yeah, let's
was like
see.
a week ago today.
Signal messaging app, the
But it
leak.
was days after the strike was executed. I would say military term.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see when
I don't know the exact date though. I don't know.
yeah, so let's just
But it
say
doesn't matter. Like it was after it finished. That's what matters. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean it says here that Goldberg was verifying via social media that the attack took place on the 15th. So like that's the conversation it ended at that point. So yeah, so I mean, yeah, no, he published his article on the 24th.
Oh, so it was
So a couple
like
like
almost a week. It is over a week
yeah,
later.
so the
Yeah.
events had already taken place. They
Yeah.
were already news at that point. It's
Hmm.
really he's reporting on the fact of like, hey, you invited a journalist to sit on the wings of this conversation that slowly evolved into like a blow by blow of an actual American attack on a terrorist group.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is a vital point. I didn't think about it that way. Cause so yeah, should being that careless. Yeah, maybe not criminal considering the fact that it didn't come out. I don't know, man. But that's just the fact that the way and also the way that they communicate with each other, which is what it's a good segue into my next question. The way they wanted to massage the narrative of how like we got to make sure we do this so that we don't upset Israel. We got to make sure we do this so that we don't like the Ukraine Russia stuff. They were talking about all this.
Let me pull it up because I have the
Yeah.
messaging up here.
Yeah,
Keep going.
they were talking about how this not just the operation itself, they were talking about how are they going to spin this to the public
So
globally.
yeah, let me see if
Yes.
I can find it because that's the thing. That's why I wanted us
I
I
got
to both read the messages because I had a feeling that like how people are most people probably didn't read the messages and they're just going to interpret it via the lens of like
of
politicians.
right.
So that's why I wanted us both to read it. Let me see if I can see where the
No,
conclusion.
I think I have it here. It says but who I think it was Vance that said it. No, it was Hegseth. It was
Yeah, when he's
Hegseth.
talking about how no one knows who the Houthis are. Was that
Yeah, yeah.
that one
Which
message?
is why, yeah, which is why we need to stay focused on Biden failed and Iran funded.
Houthis
Waiting Meeks
present.
doesn't fundamentally change the calculus, and when he means calculus, he means the global
Yeah,
geopolitical acceptance of this strike. Two immediate risks: see Israel takes action first, or Gaza. You see what I'm saying? You
yeah.
got that one. That
Um,
message to me is crazier than the one where he does the oven directions for the military strike.
yeah. So let me
It's
see. So there's a couple. There's one that's the Pete Hegseth where he had it starts with VP,
yes,
and he's
that's
right.
the one I'm looking at right now.
So okay, I understand your concerns, and folks, I will add the
You,
link because I'd highly
you
suggest you
should read
read
it.
it.
Everyone should read this.
Because
Yeah.
in some cases it's like provocative, but in other areas you're reading it and you're like, okay, like this is a lot of this is just kind of like
Yeah, the guy with the muscle emoji
it's
and
like
the American
inside
flag.
baseball. It's just like, office conversations, and you'd
It's
be like, this is
just
kind of very
it's
boring.
like water
But there's
cooler
a
talk.
few
Yeah,
nuggets. You're like, oh, okay.
yeah,
So yeah, so in this one, let's just go through it. So
yeah.
Pete
This is
Hegseth
important.
sends it. He's responding to JD Vance, and he
Yes.
says, they're talking. This is like geopolitics. They're talking.
Yeah.
None of this is really classified. It's just like you're hearing like how they're thinking about strategy and stuff. So he
Yes.
says, I understand your concerns. I fully support what you're raising with POTUS, the president.
Hmm.
Important considerations, right? Most of which are tough to know how they play out, right? Because it's true. Like, how do we know how the economy, Ukraine, peace, Gaza, these are all in the future. So who knows how they'll play out? But he says, I think messaging is going to be. So this is now what I think
This is what I'm
Avery's talking
talking
about.
about. Yeah.
I think messaging is going to be tough no matter what. Nobody knows who the Houthis are, which is why we would need to stay focused on one, Biden failed, and two, Iran
Wild.
funded.
Yeah.
Um, so when I read that the first time, so to me, again, right, we all have our own internal compasses and whatnot. Like I read it, and this is how I read things like this. I'm like, all right, these people are not just politicians; they're like diplomats and government officials. Part
Hmm.
of that is geopolitics, and geopolitics, whether you like it or not, is like
A lot of it is image. Yeah.
it's narratives, and it's
Yeah.
also just like it's chess, right? Like this group over here is doing this thing, and like
Yeah. True.
we have to deal with it, right? Like it's not a question of like even morality. Like take that off the. It's chess. It's like all right, this group here is our enemy. Like they're doing this thing. It affects this. There's this domino effect. Well, they need to be moved. And then a lot of it is you're kind of seeing inside baseball of like we need to do this thing, but we also need the people to understand like why it's important.
Hmm.
And certain things like the everyday citizen doesn't care about. But like if you could peek behind the curtain, you'd be like, oh shit, like that's something I need to care about.
Yeah.
So that's how I interpret it is like, yeah, the Houthis, like, I don't know how much of an effect they have on like, let's say the economy or, getting goods into the US. It is important that goods get into the US.
Hmm.
But like I don't think about them. Like I don't think about the Houthis when I wake up in the morning. But
Yeah.
these people are. And it's kind of like, all right, we need to do this thing, and then we need to figure out a way to like convey this to the people that like from our perspective this is needed. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I did see people get kind of like the language these people use when they're talking about this. I know it rubs some people the wrong way,
Yeah.
for right or wrong. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
see where
no,
you're
no,
coming
you
from.
see what I'm saying? It's like they're so. It's just so flippantly talking about people's lives at stake. I think that's the what was irking people when I went through the Reddit hole.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. It's like because I kind of avoided reading the comments on the Reddit because I just knew what I was gonna get. But I also think it's kind of like one of those things where like even the most peaceful president, Jimmy Carter, has murdered people,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's kind of like one of those things that like I call most political leaders like the sin eaters. Like you're lucky that they're the ones who are gonna have to put on their conscious like the deaths of people so that
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to, right? Like, and then we get a chance to kind of like complain and like, oh, like this is so wrong. Maybe it is, but there may be people who like if we're just honest, like it is better that
That's a fair point.
they're not alive. And like, it is kind of nice that you're not the one that had to like say, go kill that terrorist. And there, let's be honest, there are people in the world who are actively planning to do harm to innocent people in our country.
Yeah.
Like, it is nice though that I don't have to be the one that sends someone to go kill them. So I think that's kind of like a lot of us is like, we get the chance to just kind of like, oh man, you're such a bad person. It's like, I don't know how I would maybe be dealing with similarly if I was in your shoes.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a big responsibility. So, but
Yeah.
I still
Push
agree.
back, feel back, push back.
No. But I do disagree a little bit. The way you can just so casually, the way they're casually talking about bombing someone is a little alarming to me. Even put put aside the political stuff and then the ruling class part of it, but the way they're just casually talking about eliminating a group of people is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like after the attack, you see some of the,
It's
you
Chris. It's
know,
like the emojis, like the fist
yeah,
pump. Someone came to the hearing actually, which is funny. I'll tell you this. Someone came to the hearing with like a wrestling sign, like a sign with the emoji, the American flag, and the
yeah,
flame emoji.
yeah. I mean, you
It's
see
like,
like
yeah,
there's American flags.
yeah.
There's like,
There's like the muscle pump one. Yeah, it's
now,
crazy.
I mean, to be fair, looking at it, there's only one person who did that. It's like I'm looking at the
It's the same
messages
guy. It's
now.
the same guy.
This
Yeah,
the Steve Witkoff guy. So
yeah,
it's not like they're all doing it and there's like Hulk Hogan memes in here. Like for the most part, like let us be fair.
yeah. That's
But there's
fair
definitely
point. Fair
like,
point.
JD Vance is like, he's like saying a prayer and in some aspects this I mean there is the positive and like I think it's kind of good that we get a chance to see how human beings communicate
Yeah,
and like
this.
these are human beings that are in positions where they get to determine like life and death.
Mhm.
um so there's a good sense of like, all right guys, like maybe I should run for that because I see how you communicate. Like it's not like you're this is full of like philosophical, you know deep conversations. There's definitely some like sports bro ish messaging
That's right.
here,
That's right.
which I think that kind of stuff rubs people. It rubs people the wrong way. But again, and then I'll kick it back to you. Is like the one thing I think it's important though is like I think a lot of modern people, they're so like ennolled and like are in such a bubble that they're just so naive to like the reality of the world. Like that's my opinion. Like most people I think are just so like yes, so naive to just like the fact of like dude, there's like death. Death is always happening. Like war is always
Yeah.
happening. Like to me, like right or wrong, like this is the reality of the world. And I would imagine if we poked behind some of these messaging when Biden was office, there was like military operations all over the world. Like bad stuff is happening. So like I think that's why it is good that these things like they shouldn't have leaked it, but it's kind of good because it does force people to be like, all right, guys, like the citizens are seeing this. Like, we know how you think. We know what you're doing. Like, be careful because, if what you say it could get leaked.
Hmm.
And like you're held to a higher standard. Like, and I think that to me, that's why when these things happen, I think it's good when they periodically happen.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think as a conspiracy junkie, I love this type of stuff. But even like outside of that, um, you're right. The fact that the general populace now knows how they think, how they behave, and it's not dissimilar for how we communicate with each other. And that's very enlightening. I think that's the best part of this whole thing is now we
Yeah.
know how like the language they use and how they communicate with each other and that they do group chats like everyone does group chats.
Yeah.
That's the key.
That's so
Yeah.
great. It's like
Yeah.
literally they're just having a conversation.
Yeah,
Like, let's
exactly.
be honest, they're not like in these deep like, strat like they're just talking. Like it's just the fact that the stakes are high. And I think that's kind of like the point I was thinking about. Can I when I was starting to look, I was like, how did this happen? And the thing is like they didn't know that they were doing anything wrong. That's literally
Right.
it. They did not. I don't think right. Like none of them thought they were doing anything wrong. they obviously have been using Signal. And literally, if you go to that
W-
email, there's after the fact on the 18th, the White House pushed out internally a message to everyone saying, we do not want you using Signal. At the very least, if you're using Signal, it better be for only unclassified purposes.
That's right.
So that means
That
that historically they've all been using Signal. The Biden administration was using Signal. They've been using Signal. It's just a fact of like they made a mistake. They made a mistake by incorporating someone else, and also the fact of like, okay, we need to like rethink what are we talking about in our messaging? Because if we did an audit of everyone, there's probably a lot of stuff that like should not have been just communicated on like your iPhone while you're eating lunch.
that's right. Yeah, that's another funny like off of that point. Yes. Um they asked one of the senators, I forget who he was. I forgot his name. It Mr. Gomez, like Senator Gomez, I think, or I forget. I forget the guy's name. It was Gomez was grilling them. Himes, those two guys were going in, but they asked Gabbard. She was like, "Well, Mrs. Director Gabbard, you were out of the country while you were sending this messages, so it is on her personal phone," and she said, "Yes." She was so like very hesitant with her response time too, and she was blinking a lot, cause so like her body
Yeah.
language was all like, um I'm very nervous and I have to be very careful of what I say right now. She couldn't stop blinking. And you ask him, what do you remember where you were when you were communicating in this group chat? Because like to your point, the whole thing was, why is this happening on everyone's personal phones? And she was explaining why. Well, at certain times it's necessary because we're all in different parts of the world.
Oh,
We
absolutely.
have to be able to communicate with each other, so that's the reason for that. So they asked her, where were you when this text group got started and when you were interacting with it? And she said, I don't remember. And the guy goes, you don't remember what country you were in when this was happening? And she said, I would have to look at my schedule.
Yeah. I mean,
These
dude.
people are ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm looking at because she doesn't really comment. Like, there's not a lot of Tulsi messages here. Like, they're just kind of one offs. I mean, again, I think this like brings up a lot of like things. Like, they were invited into a message. So what does that mean? So it's kind of unfortunate because you're just a innocent bystander. You were
Yeah.
invited into a message, a group. You said accept. You don't have control. Now, it is interesting that no one, again, they didn't think they were doing anything wrong because no one said, someone could have said, Pete, let's move this into a classified environment. This
Yeah,
shouldn't be
like
discussed.
this should be
Um,
in like the situation room.
because
Yeah.
literally, like days of the conversation, I don't think anything, it just was a boring, like geopolitics stuff.
Yeah.
Literally, there's like one day where Pete says a lot of stuff that was like, dude, you shouldn't be saying this,
Hmm.
and like no one commented on it. And it's like, again, there's people in this group chat that are not even messaging, they're just like innocent bystanders. Now, what do you think though? This is the kind of a pivot, but like, how do you think they should have responded to this mistake? Because I also do, like, I'll be honest with you, I'm not like, I'm more on their people. I like Tulsi Gabbard. I'm not opposed to a lot of these people, but like I think
I
they made a
agree. Yeah.
mistake. And how do you think that they are responding to the mistake? Do you think like
Great
they're doing
question.
well or not?
I have that written down. I wrote politics aside, so let's put all of that aside, whatever side
Yeah,
you fall on. It's about accountability. So you make a huge mistake, I think it would have been better for them to come out in front of it and say, this was bad. We didn't mean to do this. This will never happen again. We apologize to the public. We apologize to the men and women of the armed services for putting them in danger. If we promise it will never happen again. But instead, they're backpedaling and
yeah,
saying, no, nothing really confidential happened in this. We didn't, it wasn't really anything sensitive in this. And then the other senators on the hearing, or in the committee hearing, they're like, how can you say this is not sensitive information? Like, it sounds ridiculous. but they wouldn't back down. They stubbornly opposed the fact that they made a mistake. So yeah, to your point, they should have just come out and said, we fucked up and we won't do it again.
And in the hearings, is that they just been doubling down on like
Doubling
this was
down
not a
on,
mistake?
this is not a mistake,
Yeah.
this is not sensitive information, you're reading too much into this. This is, so they were trying to flip the blame on the public and the other members of Congress, saying, oh, this is not that big of a deal, you're just making this a big deal for no reason, which is crazy talk, dude.
Yeah, so that's okay. Without watching the hearing, but
Yeah.
like kind of just looking at the commentary a little bit, like yeah, that was my biggest takeaway as well. I was like, guys, you made a mistake. Like I'm not even asking for anyone to be like who. It's not my determination of who gets fired or not. I do think, like, I understand why Democrats are like you should fire them, but also like a couple years ago, we found out that Hillary Clinton was just storing all of her
They talked about
emails
that
in her
too.
basement. So
Yeah.
she didn't get fired. Obviously, no one got fired there. So let's like be look. Biden was storing files at his house. He forgotten about. Trump apparently was storing files. I think Obama has stored files. So like let's be careful of who we're casting stones against. So that I'm like, all right, let's say no one gets fired. I do think it's kind of like ridiculous that one, they're trying to like scapegoat the journalist,
Yeah, it's
which I
nasty
heard
work.
like
Yeah.
he's like, he's got Trump derangement syndrome. Da, da. I'm like, who cares? Like, is he lying? Like, he's not lying. Like, he was invited. Now, if you can prove some evidence that he somehow, like someone said, he added himself, I don't think you can do that
Nah,
on
not true.
Signal.
That's false.
Like, so, like, that's just ridiculous. Like, he didn't do it. I don't even think his article, like, I didn't read his article, but like, he waited. He posted his article 10 days later. Like, he could have just been like he could have done it the next day. It's not
Mhm.
like he had to write like an award-winning piece. He just had to write an article. Like, so that's just ridiculous to me. To me, I'm like, you should just all admit like this was we made a mistake and we need to reassess. Like, what they could have said easily this is like Signal has been used for a while, like, and you could even kick it to the previous administrations. Be like, we were using it. Biden administration used it. People used it in the previous Trump administration, and maybe we need to reassess like its use, like because yeah, we made a mistake. Like this, we shouldn't have been able to add some random person who's not in the government or yeah, like we need to like completely reassess like the use of personal phones, like and just take an ownership because I feel like they would have still gotten hit hard. Obviously, like Democrats are going to they're going to use as much as they can to just like shit on you, but that's fair. But at least people would be like, all right, you messed up, but at least you're admitting it and like taking full blame.
Yeah,
And like,
responsibility.
yeah, because it's like, come on now, like you made a mistake. Like, there's no way you're not like you can't see that this was like an issue.
Yeah, no,
Like,
and
come on.
and on another level, I'll take it even further than that. People of that have this amount of authority in terms of what happens around the world should never be making mistakes like this. I don't. It once is too many. So
Yeah, I mean,
someone needs to fall for this. Someone has to go.
yeah, I mean, that's not
And
my like,
I'm not just trying
yeah,
to say the Democrats are like a Democrat or Republican. Either way, it doesn't matter. Someone needs to go for this because a lesson needs to be learned.
yeah, and maybe someone will. I mean, we're still
Yeah.
kind of in the wake of this. I don't know because again, it's like to my earlier point, and it's not like rationalizing, but it's like I think they should have. If this has been going on for a long time, this is not a one-off. Like I would imagine.
Yeah, that's scary to think
I
about.
think that it's like they use Signal, and because Signal is
I-
proposed to be a very secure.
You said it, yeah. They sent the memo out to every government employee about Signal.
So
They've
like
been using it.
people have been using it this
Years, man.
administration, previous
Yeah.
administrations, probably for a while. So it's like this was like a common practice. It wasn't like whatever this guy's name, the one Walter or the guy who started it,
Walls.
Walls, like just was like, I'm gonna use Signal today. Like this was probably standard operating procedure,
Yeah.
and that's what's like to me. That's what I'm seeing. It's like, yo, guys, I guarantee a lot of you, like literally when this hit the fan, how many people were just like deleting Signal because they all like. I imagine this is standard. JD Vance has probably many Signal groups that he's been invited to. Tulsi Gabbard's probably connected to many Signal groups.
Oh yeah, for different countries
This
all
is not
around
the
the world,
first or the
easily.
one. This is like they're probably been using Signal all of the time, and it's like, oh shit, it's crazy. This is the first time that this is. It's probably not even the first time. It's probably the first time that like a journalist was added. But how often has someone been added by accident and then they're like, oh shit, they catch it later? That's a family member. Delete. Right. And just everyone kind of keeps it quiet and like the family member doesn't say anything. You know what I mean? To me, it's just a glaring security thing. Like,
Yeah,
guys,
that's what I'm saying.
the standards need to be
This
much
can
higher.
happen.
Come
This
on.
can happen. This cannot happen. Exactly.
Like, and maybe someone needs to get fired or at least fall on the sword just to show people, like, hey,
That's why I said,
yeah, like guys, like this is like, come on now,
it's
we can't.
completely unacceptable
Yeah,
that this
because
happened.
also if you're Trump and it's like you're coming in here with all these plans, like I kind of feel bad for him because it's not like he was part of it. He didn't do it. One of his underlings did it, and it's kind of like, guys, we're being attacked from every angle, like politically. Let's not give them any more ammunition, right? They don't need ammunition, but this is legit ammunition. Like this is a legitimate mistake you guys made. It's not like political. It's like you made a mistake. Come on, guys.
Right. There's nothing really subjective about this mistake to me. This is just flat out concretely a
Yeah.
bad look.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
completely like, dude, you dropped the ball. Like, come on now.
But yeah,
Unless you find out that somehow this is some elaborate scenario where either, the guy's underling added the like, I don't know, got paid to add this report. Like, come on now. The guy's phone number was in the phone, right? So what, you know what I'm saying? So like you could go down that rabbit hole, but damn, you're gonna have to have a lot of proof. It's more
Yeah, I know.
likely this is just human error, and you're human. Humans can make errors, but you're gonna have to face up to it.
Yeah. Well, I love what you just said there because I'm 25% down that rabbit hole, and let me tell you why. You don't just get accidentally added to a group chat. No many buttons you have to press. It's not like a butt dial. It's not like I put my phone in my pocket and accidentally dial someone.
It's a good point.
You gotta scroll through your contacts. You gotta collect the contact, add it to the grid, hit add. We're talking about like 5 different buttons that need to be pushed.
So while you're talking, I'm gonna, because we use Signal, you and I.
Yeah.
Let me see what the process is of creating a group chat. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do new group.
Yeah, so that's
I now need to
button,
go
step
finds people, right? I gotta go.
Yep.
Okay, Robert.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add him. I'm gonna add, let's say, just pick a random person, Rob Bayar. So I'm literally looking through, and I have all my contacts, and I have to click on the contact, and then it'll be checked.
Yeah.
Right, and then I have to hit
another
next.
button. Yes.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
And then I have to give the group a name.
Mm-hmm.
Bump, 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 bump.
I don't think your butt can do that.
No, I mean it's 100. That's you bring up a very, very valid.
I'm saying this
response.
this Goldberg guy was added intentionally. If you're asking Bobby A, he was intentionally added to the group.
Another interesting question is, and I saw I saw that again. Trump's asked. The first thing Trump says is kind of like, and I get it. If I was Trump, you're gonna kind of try to like, you're putting out a fire. So I think his whole response was like, there really wasn't much going on in this conversation, from what I understand. It was wasn't aware of it. I think
by the conversation, it seemed like he wasn't involved in it.
No,
because if you look at what Vance was saying, he said, "Oh, I need to raise the president on this issue. Let me talk to him first." I don't think Trump was involved in this at all.
Yeah, and he dismissed about firing people. He definitely throws Goldberg under the bus, which It's
He
kind of
hates the
ridiculous.
Atlantic, though.
Yeah, it's like,
That's why.
dude, but all right. And then I think he blames. Let's see. I think he says something like, let me see if I can find it. That because like I don't know if Walt, what's the guy's name? Is it Waltz? What is his name?
Walls. W
Walls.
A
Walls.
L Z.
They said his subordinate was the one that created the group.
Oh, like one of his assistants, or was it a
Yeah,
government official?
like whoever, like one of his assistants. So let's
No, you're
see.
right. Waltz. Waltz. Michael, not
Said he had
Waltz.
never
Waltz.
interact. Okay,
Sorry.
according to anonymous sources, some speculate it could result in dismissal. Yeah, because I think it was like I think Trump tried to say that it was maybe one of his employees, like his assistants,
Yeah,
and
like a personal
then
assistant or
yeah,
something.
and then Waltz was like, no, no, he like took full like responsibility, like no, it was me who created the group. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like I want to say if it was a conspiracy, like what you're describing, because
Yeah.
I do kind of agree, like. Come on now, it's not
I
it's
don't
not
think he was
very easy
accidentally
to
added.
accidentally add someone.
Yeah.
Um, unless there's like someone who had a similar name, right? Like I add Rob Bayar instead of you, right? Like I'm
Yeah,
just moving
that
quick.
would. I see what you're saying.
But it
Yeah,
wasn't like the group
but
had a
no,
lot of people in it. Like if
no.
I'm scrolling to the end
There was
and
only one, two, three, four, five, six,
there was
seven people.
19 members.
So it's 19. Yeah, I see it right now. 19 members, and it says you. That's JG. That's the journalist.
So it's not a lot, right? Like it's not a lot of people. So I mean, another lesson is if you're in a group chat, you should probably click on the members and
Yeah.
see who's in your damn group.
All right. And another good point. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up because
And
it
ladies
says
and gentlemen,
Mike.
that's a life like that should be for everyone.
Yeah.
Like whether you're in politics or not. Look
Yeah.
at who's in the group before you ever like join it or comment on anything.
Yeah. Look at it. Oh
Like come
yeah.
on.
Oh, there's a mistake at work recently with my job where someone didn't realize that the big wigs, the fat cats, were in the chat.
Dude, I've had jobs where
Done.
like a VP has a similar name, and then someone emails you because my name's Chris, so it's a very common name, and
Yeah.
like I get an email, and it's literally like numbers, like numbers for like big things that like a normal employee shouldn't know. Like that shit happens. Like these mistakes do happen. It's just that like a lot of times they don't get brought up. This was
Yeah.
like they failed in a big way. But go ahead.
So it looks like Waltz, according to this screenshot, he's the only admin. So no one else can add anyone into the group but him. So that also, let's throw that in there as well. I don't know, man. I need to know. I like I said, I'm only 25% down there. Maybe it'll turn out that he did just think it was someone else, but I doubt it. I can't believe that. I think this Goldberg guy, the Atlantic journalist, was added intentionally.
I mean, maybe.
My
Who knows?
opinion.
Who knows? I
But
mean, the thing is this: it should be easy to prove. Like, it should be able to easy to prove. Like, there's definitely, a somewhat of a paper trail. Maybe you reach out to Signal, like, you can see. I think, but again, I think to my earlier point is like, even if he was added intentionally,
mhm.
this just brings up the reality of like, this is not how you should be doing communication. That
Yeah, the
that is
greater point. Yeah.
That's important, right? Like even if you don't think it's like, you know, classified, it's just like, no, this is government talk. So if literally we're talking about things that have to do with our jobs, and our jobs are running organizations that save and kill people,
Exactly.
maybe we need to reassess how we communicate. Like to Tulsi Gabbard, we need to communicate. It's like, sure. Um, you have the NSA. Like, come up with a government signal. Like, there's no way anyone should be able to add, just like with a click of a button, anyone in their personal contact list. Like, come on. Like, that's just not.
Yeah,
To
and
me, it's just like that. That shouldn't even have been possible. right?
Exactly how I feel. Exactly right. Same
You
stance.
add like your ex-wife or something like that. It shouldn't even be. It should be like dummy proof. Like no, don't worry. It's not possible. You can't add these
Yeah,
people.
and we can get deeper into weeds now. What if Tulsi Gabbard or Radcliffe loses his phone? What if Radcliffe loses his phone, and
Yeah,
then someone has his phone with this group chat in it,
yeah. I mean, I'll be curious. Like
or
for another,
iCloud
yeah, for
stuff?
another day. I mean, even because I kind of started to do my own deep dive a little bit. Was just sorry, my door mysteriously opened with the
The
dog.
dog. It's the dog. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, just like
I
because
saw that. Oh no,
I
ghosts
was
coming in.
yeah, right.
It's the
I
dog.
was like, how is it even possible? Because I would have
Yeah.
thought you just can't use your personal phone, but yeah, you can. And I think that's like that is the like that was my biggest thing. It's like, dude, people are not tech savvy. Just because you are like the president doesn't mean you think Biden was tech savvy. Like, no, like it's crazy that we live in such a
No,
complicated world, but there's no like prerequisite that like you need to be like a competent technologist to like make policy on like tech security or hackers. It's just a very interesting, like you have people who get into power that it doesn't like they don't know how to use a phone, right? Like there's no
true.
guarantee that they know how to like protect themselves or secure something or know what can be hacked and what can't be hacked. Like we just assume they're smart, but that's probably wrong on our part.
Yeah, it's especially when it comes to like stuff like this. Like I
Yeah.
would assume they're well versed in like policies and how government operations, but using an iPhone, do they know how iCloud works? All your
No.
information is somewhere. It can be hacked. We saw it. You know what I'm saying? You know what
Yeah.
I'm. You remember what then happened? Where the what was that called? The fappening or whatever that was 10 years ago,
Mm-mm.
where everyone, all like the famous celebrities, uh, iClouds got hacked and all their photographs
Oh.
got posted on Reddit. You don't
No,
remember that?
I wasn't aware of that. I got to look that up now.
Ooh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, we live, and I think that's the. I'm gonna say something that's maybe a little outrageous because I know you'll disagree with it to some degree, but like it is strange, right? Like people don't like the Elon Musk and his closeness to the government, or people like him, not even Elon Musk, just like wealthy people who have their own. But it is kind of interesting. Like we live in such a complicated world, and it is kind of fascinating that often the people that are have the most power in the government are so far removed to like how the actual world works, like the systems and like the technology and all of these things. Like I saw something with Doge recently, and it was saying that like the government had paid $1 billion to have this group do a survey for them, and Elon Musk was like, you can use what is it, Survey Monkey, like some random subscription, pay 10K, and you could have done the same thing. It's just like the reality is that the people making decisions, they're just not that in touch with like the world that you and I live in, with all the technology and the things. And
Hmm.
I think we just trust that they are. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's probably really wrong. Like, they're not the ones in touch with like
No, I think that's right.
all of these systems. Like, they're not.
But I think it is strange that we just assume that all of them are well versed on all aspects of what it means to just be an American right now in 2025. But
Yeah,
where I disagree with is those are the puppets, Chris. That's
I know
why.
we talk about this.
They
I disagree with
know,
that.
the people in charge know what they're doing.
Yeah, so
The shadows
we're gonna
know
have
what they're
that
doing.
conversation one day. But like,
Yeah.
I like, yeah, I don't know if I like that. Anyway, we can have that conversation
They know
another
what
day.
they're doing. Trust me.
Um, yeah. So anyway, what are some of your final thoughts? Because we're gonna still like, I would imagine, in the this is kind of like we're gonna see. I think you're right. Like someone will get fired.
This is, yeah, this we need to circle back on this at some point
Yeah.
because,
Now,
yeah,
I would think it'd be interesting. I don't. If Trump doesn't fire someone, it would probably be a change of pace because I feel like historically, like he was definitely willing to like sacrifice people. Like, all right, I'm not taking the blame. Like, someone's gonna
Hmm.
get chopped. So
Yeah.
it would be interesting if he's like, no, no, I'm not gonna do that again. Like, I'm gonna cover them.
It
Maybe
seems like he's backing them for now,
maybe
but we'll see.
internally someone's going to
Yeah.
get hugely reprimanded and potentially threatened, but like from the outside we're going to kind of like, you know, pull up the what is it, pull up the, what is the old western term, you know, pull up the carts, circle the wagons
Circle the wagons. Yeah.
around my people. But yeah, like, what do you, I don't know,
Well,
and what are your final thoughts on this
so
topic?
my final thoughts is I think the more important thing is not like the political, I would say, like lampooning of each side. I think it's not that it got revealed. So people are focusing too much on the content of what happened. Yes, that was extremely significant and important because lives were at stake. My goal is I want to know and investigate how this man got into the group chat. That's the more intriguing part to me than the actual leak itself. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's like the pot, like I'm seeing a message. John Bolton, who I'm not, he was a national security advisor during Trump's first term. He says, I describe the administration's use of Signal in any sense as stunning. And again, like, I think that's bullshit. Like, I think I would imagine they were not the first people to use
That's a
Signal.
lie. Yeah.
Like,
You're
I would imagine that if we're honest, like, people have been using Signal within multiple administrations for a while. Um, but to your point, I think this is like, to me, it just brings up the fact of like, guys, like, how, yeah, to your point,
how did
how is
he
this
get in there?
possible? Like,
Yeah. That's
not
what I'm
even
more
that
interested
someone
in.
made a human error, but like, the system should be one that you can't make that human error,
Correct.
because these people have all kinds of people on their phone.
Yeah,
They
man.
have rulers of other countries.
That's right.
They have our government's enemies on their phone, right? What if they had added, I'm just going to throw you know,
L-
a Russian, I don't know, I'm not like
Yeah.
someone from a Russian ambassador, or an ambassador from China, or an ambassador from Iran, whoever, right? Like, it should not be a system where that is even like a possibility.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
Exactly. So that's the part that I'm gonna dig deeper into. But
very
in
cool.
terms of my final thought is, if you watch the hearing, which I would also recommend. I know it's long, but just watch a couple clips and then watch all their body languages.
Oh,
They some of them are full of shit, man. You just know it. You look at Gabbard. She looks like she's like completely rattled, be like beyond rattled. So it's crazy.
and that's why it's like, dude, you can't hide
Yeah,
that. So why
yeah.
lie? Just
That's what
be
I'm
like,
saying.
dude,
Just be like, I
we
messed
effed
up.
up.
Yeah,
We effed
exactly.
up. I didn't make the group, but I should have known better, and I should have told them we need to move this into a
Yeah,
different.
we got to make this more secure. Exactly. That would have been the better play, but they doubled down. They were like, "Nope, this is not sensitive. This is not a big deal."
Dumb.
That was the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I might watch it just to see that. Yeah, I mean, pretty much, I'm on board with you. I mean, I think that my final thoughts are just the fact of like, I'm curious to see if, I mean, I'm assuming it's at this point it's too late. They're not gonna like apologize or just admit fault,
They're too
because,
deep. They're in too deep now.
which I think is like hugely foolish.
Hmm.
I would love Trump to just be the one that says, you know what, they did mess up. Like, we
Imagine if he did that. That's still a
messed up.
possibility.
There's really no like looking into it, and he could. He's like, I looked into it. I looked
Yeah.
into all the details. They screwed up, like,
Yeah.
100%. I'm not going to fire anyone, because let's be honest, people have been using Signal, and this just brings up the fact that we need to like determine how this person was added. It
Yeah.
should not have been possible, and we need to reassess like how the U.S. government runs and how it communicates. It would be awesome if he did that, because I think
Yeah.
that would be the only way. But yeah, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Ladies and
All
gents,
right.
thanks for tuning in. I'm gonna
It's a good
add
one.
in the description. I'll add a link to at least what we looked at as far as the messaging, so
Yeah.
you can read it, because I do think it gives you a different context. I think if you're just listening to politicians, you'll think that they were like, it was 5 days of like battle plans, which from my
No,
reading, it was not that. It was
no.
not good, but it could be kind of magnified into something that I don't think it is. So I'll add that, and I'll also add a link to what Rob had provided with the Wikipedia, so you can kind of like that just hits everything.
It's actually a good summary, and then you can follow the links from there. Yeah,
Yeah, it adds a lot of like, yeah, it links to all of its who it's referencing, so you can
yeah,
look at that. But if you like this episode, just take a moment, hit like and subscribe. It definitely will help us, and it'll
yeah.
keep us kind of like it'll let us know that hey, we're making something that people like. And yeah, feel free to add in the comments if there's something you want to hear us talk about. Um, we're always game. We'll definitely
Yeah,
try to move towards something that's a little bit less like politics, government, and just
yeah.
get back to our roots of like I don't
True.
know, man. Monsters, aliens, and life.
Yeah,
So
but this was important. This was because it blends into like the shadow conspiracy realm as well.
and I
At least
like
for
that.
me.
I like that we do this because for me, it forces me. Like I can kind of like turn a blind eye and just do my own thing and focus. And I do like that it does focus. It makes me say, okay, I gotta like let me go see what's going on in the world, right? Because
That's
it is
yeah,
important and it gives me a reason to like, all right, I'm going to talk to Avery, who's been doing a deep dive, and I don't want to like, I want to actually understand what's going on in the world because we live in a crazy world, and like, dude, things happen, and if you're not aware of them, you might not be able to change them, but it definitely, you should kind of know what's going on
of course. Yeah,
around you. So,
informed is the best way.
absolutely. All
Yeah,
right, ladies, gents, have a good night. See
salute.
you next week.
Peace out.
Peace.